Story 1. Frustrations or arguments are met with silence because they are so used to it and realize that it will never end. That is one of the signs. Story 2. My ex-wife and I had a roommate. When they found a new place, she started helping them pack their clothes into boxes. A few days before their move-out date, I noticed some of her things were missing, things I saw every day. That's when I realized she was quietly packing her own stuff too. A week later, both the roommate and my wife moved out. Story 3. Emotional withdrawal or withholding occurs when a partner stops all attempts to communicate, connect, comfort, or express their emotional state. Story 4. They do not look you in the eye. Disengagement. They can engage with day-to-day activities, but nothing deeper than that. Story 5. I had some friends who were going through a rough patch. It showed. But suddenly, they were both a lot happier and seemed to be doing better. She had decided to get out, and just making the choice made her happier and more willing to invest in herself. The man was happy to see his wife exercising more, dressing up when going out, wearing more makeup, and spending more time with her friends instead of complaining to him. The last year of their marriage was their best year. So happiness is a sign. Story 6. They stop arguing not because things are fine, but because they have emotionally checked out and are done trying. Story 7. Honestly, something I have noticed is people suddenly changing physique, losing weight, or gaining a lot of visible muscle. Story 8. Probably emotional distancing. You start noticing it in all the small day-to-day things. Less interest, less presence, less softness, less empathy. If that keeps happening and starts to grow, it is usually a sign that things are heading toward the end. Story 9. Suddenly joint social media accounts. John and Jane Doe posting about being blessed is a surefire sign of a pending split. Laughing out loud. Story 10. A quiet sign might be them suddenly becoming very organized, secretly packing files or clearing out old photos. Or they start working late much more often. Story 11. They stop caring about anything to do with you. They make future plans that clearly do not include you. Story 12. If you had a relaxed phone policy before, but they start getting really guarded and cautious about it. They are having conversations they do not want you to see. Story 13. If an argument starts, you may notice that the person often does not say anything and does not even try, especially if you previously discussed something heatedly together. In such cases, it is better to talk openly. Story 14. Finances change. Someone preparing to leave a marriage is likely making sure their own finances are in order first. Story 15. Buying individual items of things you already share. Before I left my ex, I bought my own Nintendo Switch even though we had one together because I knew he would take it, and I did not want a game on a console I would lose. In the same vein, watch out for a partner who is suddenly backing up or transferring data from shared devices to their personal storage. Story 16. I just went through this after a 7-year relationship. As most said, they are mentally checked out. You will not hear about upcoming travel plans or any interest in setting any sort of vacation plans. That was kind of the giveaway for me. I knew something was up and coming when she did not care to plan a vacation. Sure enough, a few months later, she ended it. Story 17. Their energy just shifts. They do not care. Fight all you want, do anything you want, they will react the same way. Story 18. Small things you have done for the person you love are gone. He always bought you the soda you like. But now he suddenly forgets. She used to write you small texts of affection, but now the phone is silent at work. You do not care if they call. You do not care when they take longer hours at work. Story 19. They have stopped asking for things like dishes, dates, and sex. They do not care anymore and have checked out. Story 20. I knew my filing for divorce was going to be met with animosity, so I quietly got a storage unit and packed things that meant a lot to me, such as Christmas ornaments and children's presents. I knew he didn't want them and would just fight me for them out of spite. If he didn't see them, he wouldn't know they were there. Plus, I saved cash. Story 21. Not even bothering to bring up issues when they turn into arguments are ignored, or the other person claims they will do something but does not. Sometimes, there is no agreement that there is even an issue or what needs to be done to address it. There is no point. I have better days when I do not talk to my husband at all than when I do. Feels like a colossal waste of time and energy. It is not worth the effort to try to connect with someone who has shown no interest or effort in actual connection with me. Story 22. Looking for excuses not to spend time with you. Communication becomes one-sided. No physical intimacy. Ignoring your feelings and not caring for your opinion anymore. All signs of withdrawal. Story 23. They start to argue and abruptly stop, saying, "You know what? Never mind." And they mean it, because they just spent the past 2 years or whatever explaining themselves, and that's it. They're done. They have finally learned that trying to get them to see their pain isn't going to work. No matter which words are used, he will still deflect, gaslight, say, "I thought we were getting along but I choose you and we need counseling. Where was this energy 2 years ago?" Story 24. Peace in the relationship. If they had many issues and suddenly one partner stops nagging and fighting about them, one side will think everything is great. They believe the other partner is picking up their slack and they can finally be free to do what they want without worrying about the other side. The other partner has given up and checked out. They no longer engage and will not waste energy trying to fight or fix the issues. They do everything themselves. Didn't take out the trash? They will do it without nagging. Staying up late gaming with friends and not helping out? No worries, they will clean the house and make dinner, no fuss. They will start working on themselves. When they leave, the other person will say it came out of nowhere. Story 25. The person is suddenly completely fine with things that used to bother them a lot. Can feel like the relationship is getting better. Then all of a sudden you are left cold. Story 26. When I left my ex, I disguised my packing as spring cleaning. "Oh, I'm just clearing some old hobby stuff. I figured we could use the cupboard space. I inherited that from my grandmother. I don't really want it, so I'll donate it." Sure, some stuff was donated, but the vast majority went to my parents' place for storage. I couldn't get everything out subtly, but my ex didn't put the pieces together until I had already left. If someone is doing major clear-outs often, it might be time to ask if everything is okay. Story 27. As a man, I did several things that should have and eventually did, but not until the last second tipped off my soon-to-be ex-wife. 1. I grew my hair long. It is still long. It is symbolic in that it grew along with my inner strength and will. I am keeping it this way because it looks good and I like it. It is my body to do with as I please. 2. I threw myself hard into health and fitness. Not to attract women, I have zero interest in ever having another relationship, but for me, I want to be the best version of myself as I age. For me and for my kids. 3. I grew increasingly calm and willing to walk away from arguments. Screaming at each other did not solve anything and just upset the kids. So I refused to do it anymore. Talking never solved anything, so I stopped doing it. She thought she had one, but I had stopped even playing the game. 4. I started going to therapy. She thought it was to work on all the things she said were wrong with me, but really it was to work on the things I wanted to improve about myself and to work through all the damage caused by years of emotional and physical abuse. 5. I started being very frugal because I was saving money as hard as I could so I could afford to move out, hire an attorney, and so on. 6. Sex became far less frequent, and even when we did have sex, half the time I would just get tired and quit in the middle of it. It is difficult to be passionate about the person who makes you miserable every day, and hate only lasts so long before it turns into apathetic disinterest. Edit. Thank you for the award. Story 28. No longer fighting for the relationship. Just letting the other person get on with it without chasing them anymore. Taking a huge step back. Mentally checked out. Like someone said, the silence is louder than the conversations. Story 29. They stop fighting and arguing because they no longer care about the relationship or the other person. Story 30. In my mind, our relationship was over long before we officially ended it. I stopped trying, asking for affection and dates, and stopped saying when something upset me. We started spending holidays apart. I stopped telling him when I struggled but silently cried in bed or in the shower. I just gave up because it didn't seem important to them to make it work. Story 31. I have seen quite a few male coworkers over the years suddenly start going to the gym after work. Their relationships all ended shortly afterward. Story 32. Starting fights over trivial things. Making subtle suggestions that you are cheating on them, known as projection. Making odd purchases as if your input no longer matters, or making billing decisions in the same manner. Story 33. If it is a woman, I have noticed that she will make a drastic change to her hairstyle or hair length. Story 34. My ex lived in television land for years before I was able to get a loan to move out. He was stunned. When he mentioned that we had not even been fighting, I pointed out that we had not talked in years. He never noticed. Story 35. Once with an ex, I had checked out mentally so far that I completely forgot their birthday, and I actively enjoy making a fuss of people on their birthdays. I surprised myself. Story 36. If they are planning to or already seeing someone else behind your back, they may be constantly on the phone and very secretive about it. They might hide all text notifications, put passwords on any and all technology, and instigate petty arguments over things that do not really matter, such as wanting to keep the toilet seat up all the time and arguing that cultural norms are wrong about this. Story 37. When he keeps suggesting you visit family out of town for a week or two, then says, "We can decide where to go from there." I found out 2 months later it was with another woman. I left and never looked back. Story 38. When the person you do not have to worry about suddenly appears in their life, all their attention goes to the new acquaintance. Story 39. Emotionally distant. They do not care to talk, spend time, or be intimate with you. They can also belittle, degrade, or be unkind to you. If problems arise, they do not care to resolve the issue. Story 40. Indifference. The things that bothered them before no longer do. The conversations become one-sided. The talks of the future stop. They suddenly have new friends and new interests. Their appearance changes often for the better, and the sexual activity stops. When you ask if everything is all right, the answer is, "I'm fine." Not, "I'm fine," but why do you ask? Because your opinion no longer matters, and the desire to fix things is gone. They have checked out emotionally and are waiting for the right time to leave. Story 41. The number one sign is the lack of forward-looking statements. If they have mentally left, then you are not in their future. When someone looks back and says, "Yes, something is wrong. I just do not know what it is," this is what registers subconsciously. Story 42. When you open your own bank account and start saving money, when the arguing stops, it is because they have given up. When you no longer care what they do, where they go, or what they say, you are starting to live separate lives but have not yet cut the cord. Story 43. They suddenly start needing to shower every day as soon as they get home after working late, which has become almost every day. Story 44. Throwing things out, shutting down emotionally, slipping off the ring, going out alone more, sleeping in separate rooms. My ex-husband chose drinking and video games over me repeatedly, so I chose solitude. At first, it was just quiet outings, small moments to myself. But when a simple weekend camping trip felt more fulfilling than anything we had shared in months, I knew it was over. Story 45. I'm a bartender. When I talk to someone at the bar who says they're there because they need some time away from the kids and house, I always suspect it's a spousal issue. Even if they're not cheating, whenever someone goes out alone with that purpose, it always signals a bad relationship to me. No one, or at least I, would purposely delay going home to a spouse or girlfriend if it was a healthy relationship. This only applies to people who live with their significant other, obviously. Story 46. Total silence when you are arguing and not participating in discussions you were once very vocal about. Also, forgetting things that once meant a lot to you. Story 47. If someone checks out or is present but does not seem fully engaged, showing minimal communication and being more distant, it is not always a clear sign. Some signs can indicate either this behavior or a potential mental health issue. Story 48. Communication starts diminishing. They spend more time on their phones, texting, and talking to people increasingly. Story 49. The person leaving stops putting effort and energy into any aspect of the relationship. They start noticing the differences more than the similarities between them. They stop using the word we. They basically stop caring. Story 50. When one person suddenly starts putting significantly more effort into getting in shape and improving their appearance but does not seem to be doing so for their partner. Story 51. They may start to withdraw emotional support from their partner, such as not being there during difficult times or not showing interest in their partner's feelings. This happened to me last year when I was going through a rough time. My aunt died, my mother was sick, and my estranged father died a few months later. After that, his family stopped talking to me. I felt strange for crying all the time. Story 52. Any change in patterns should set off alarm bells, especially the stereotypical ones. Starting to go to the gym, changes in working hours, changes in sleep patterns, and changes in clothing. Humans are 1, lazy, and 2, creatures of habit. Changing habits requires effort, and anything that requires effort is done because there is a reward that is more valuable than continuing the existing habits. Story 53. Check the attic, basement, or storage space. I shopped and saved things for at least a year before leaving my ex. A set of dishes and linens were all stashed in the attic until I needed them. Story 54. A telltale sign might be them quietly stashing something or suddenly forgetting to mention weekend plans. Story 55. I did not notice, but my coworkers did. I did not talk about him at all. They thought we were already separated, and that I lived alone when I told them I am getting a divorce. Story 56. One time I came home. She worked from home and was talking to, I think, her boss. She was super high-pitched, almost moaning. I sat down with the kids and started taking my boots off when she came out very upset because I did not announce myself. Whatever that is. Story 57. They begin to push you away and act as if they have done no wrong, trying to place all the blame on you. Story 58. Going to the gym, upgrading clothing, and being much more concerned about finances. Sudden car maintenance, cleaning and decluttering their belongings, and backing up all of their data. Story 59. I started decluttering the house because the amount of stuff I would eventually need to pack overwhelmed me. I had not officially decided to leave yet, but I knew I was approaching a breaking point. Story 60. When reading these comments, I recognize them as signs of disappointment and hurt, but not necessarily signs that someone has planned to leave. The only comment that signaled this was the one where someone told their partner they were just organizing their clothes when actually they were packing. Story 61. When they become distant, make excuses, do not pay enough attention to their partner, and become colder, they create problems and blame you for them. They then turn the tables on you by making you feel worthless. They say things that are not true and lead you on until they take advantage of you financially. Story 62. They start collecting evidence of arguments. If screenshots are used in arguments, then the relationship is over. Changes in financial patterns establish boundaries around entitlement. Sex is off the table. Story 63. When they emotionally and mentally clock out, there is no reaction to things they used to respond to strongly. Story 64. Losing interest in small things could include not wanting to eat meals together, forgetting important days, or not sharing information that should be shared. Story 65. One sign that someone is planning to leave a relationship soon is detachment. It might seem peaceful on the surface, but it could signal that the other partner does not care enough anymore to even fight because they have already given up on the relationship. Story 66. Yes, total silence and no eye contact. Does not show any interest and does not care what you do. Going through it at the moment, just waiting for the letter. Story 67. I took off my rings about a month before I asked for a divorce. They started hurting my skin even before I made my decision. Story 68. When they are always outside with their friends and go home the next day saying, "Sorry, I did not notice the time, we had so much fun. Be ready." Story 69. Stock up on items using their partner's benefit plan. Before I realized we were headed for divorce, my husband started ordering extra things such as continuous positive airway pressure mask and hoses because my plan covered 100% and they were expensive. Hindsight. Story 70. They find small things to get upset about. They ignore their partner and compare their partner to another person. Story 71. This thread has broken me. I had no idea I had checked out. There is no one else. I have no money. I have not been influenced by anyone. I am just so empty. I have nothing left to give. Story 72. I have worked with women for 30 years. I went to my doctor and she looked amazing. She was happy, tan, and had lost 15 pounds. At my next appointment, she was gone. Story 73. Spending the night at another location several times a week, including the night after baking a cake the previous evening. Story 74. When she gets a puppy, they might not be actively in the planning stage yet, but if you have some doubts and she gets a puppy, it is practically over. Story 75. When tenure is mentioned frequently, people are often staying because they are afraid to leave, and tenure is one of the main reasons for this. Story 76. There is a period of over-attentiveness. You ask yourself, where is this coming from? I think it comes from guilt and affection being on their mind a lot, just not for you. Story 77. I plan to leave my ex by no longer updating him about my daily life, such as routine activities. When more serious events occurred, I stopped asking for explanations from him and no longer had fights. Eventually, we broke up. I guess the absence of engagement is the first warning sign. Story 78. You go to a friend's wedding together. You are standing, watching part of the ceremony. The photographer is near. He notices this and steps away from you. Story 79. The soft launch bumper sticker phrases, I wish I was a better man, and you deserve better. Once you start hearing those, just start packing. Story 80. She travels a few days every few months for work. She used to make a big deal about missing me. Now, she just tells me the day before she is leaving that she is leaving and I should not forget to do ABCD while she is away. I have asked her to let me know if she arrives safely, but she does not anymore. She will text if there is an issue with one of my stepsons or their father and she needs somewhere safe to vent or get feedback. But no miss you, because I know she does not. Story 81. One of the clearest signs is when they stop including you in the little things. You will notice they make plans without asking what you are doing. They start watching shows alone that you used to watch together. They stop sending those random texts during the day. It is not always a big fight or dramatic moment. Sometimes they are already halfway out the door emotionally, and you do not realize it until everything feels one-sided. Story 82. It was not a sign he saw, but when taking down the Christmas tree, I put all the sentimental ornaments in a separate box for us to share later. Story 83. When she teaches herself how to install wood floors or start tiling. When she gets breast augmentation. Story 84. When someone is no longer communicating, no longer wants to express their true emotions, and no longer longs for your presence, when the excitement is gone, you feel like you are with a complete stranger. Story 85. When they stop arguing and just say, you are right all the time, it feels like they have already checked out and do not care to fix it anymore. Quiet quitting relationship edition. Story 86. They start treating you poorly, and it gradually gets worse. They hope you will break up with them so they can walk away without guilt. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.